The cabin pressure dropped before anyone heard the sound. At 40,000 feet, masks snapped down, and Sloane Vaughn's molars screamed. Behind seat 3A, the starboard hull split. A crack raced for the window seam. No one screamed. Shindeho lifted his head and the panic went quiet, like fear was waiting for his permission. Sloane's eyes cut to his bodyguard. Marcus's hand was too steady. He pinched the oxygen line, feeding 3A for 2 beats, then let it go like a practice move. Sloane felt her throat lock. Why would the man paid to keep him alive steal his air? Someone slammed into her shoulder. An attendant, smiling like help, shoved the service hatch towards Sloane's wrist, trying to close her out of the galley access. The edge bit skin. Sloane yanked back and the hatch clapped shut. The attendant's palm flashed gray, fresh bonding tape wet, hidden under a tray. The jet gave a small, wrong shudder. The crack answered with a ticking that wasn't metal settling. It was structure failing. Sloane's mind ran numbers without asking permission. Seam distance, propagation speed, cure time. Old work she wasn't supposed to remember. She was a flight attendant on paper. In her bones, she was something else. A whisper slipped from the forward cabin, Korean, tight and satisfied. Wait for the seam. Revenge didn't need a weapon up here. Altitude could do it clean. If the fracture reached that seam, the panel would blow outward and the cabin would become a violent mouth. First gone would be the man in 3A, then everyone near him. Sloane could walk away. She had no weapon, no rank, no authority. If she spoke, they could laugh. If she grabbed the kit, they could stop her. If she did nothing, she would live with the sound of a powerful man dying without understanding why, and with the knowledge that she watched it happen. Her feet stayed planted anyway. Her hand found the emergency bay latch by muscle memory, the way it had in a hangar she was forbidden to name. The fracture behind 3A carried a signature she had seen exactly once before. In a theater she was contractually forbidden to mention, and that recognition didn't feel like memory. It felt like a sentence. Daeho's gaze tracked her fingers. Not gratitude, suspicion. Marcus's breathing sped up, then cleaned itself, like he was choosing how weak to look. The crack climbed another inch. 30 seconds, maybe less. She already knew this wasn't an accident, and she hadn't even touched the hull yet. If you're the kind of person who notices what others walk past, you already know why she couldn't look away. Hit that like button right now. And comment, let's go. Sloane slid the emergency bay panel open and hooked 2 fingers under the patch kit handle. It was heavier than it looked. The moment the latch clicked, heads turned. The aisle tightened. People stopped flailing and started watching, because watching felt safer than moving. The attendant with the wet tape shifted 1 step closer, placing herself between Sloane and the starboard wall like a door. Shindeho still didn't scream. He set both palms flat on the armrests and locked his jaw, eyes sweeping the cabin in slow, numbered passes. Faces, hands, exits, then Sloane. Not gratitude, inventory. His breathing stayed controlled, but a vein in his neck jumped once, betraying effort. Marcus sat a row back, mask on, breathing fast. Too fast. The rhythm wasn't panic. It was a burn, like he was spending oxygen to look convincingly weak. Then his eyes sharpened, alert, and Sloane understood the performance. If she moved wrong, he would move right. A chime started and died. The pilot's voice came over the intercom, broken into static, then cut off mid-word. The crack behind 3A answered with a faint, constant tick. Sloane forced herself to take 1 step, then another. Patch kit pressed to her thigh so it wouldn't swing. She kept her eyes down, because looking at Daeho too long would turn her into a conversation. Her mind ran numbers instead. Fracture length, seam distance, cure time, the way suction would pull if the panel blew. The attendant spoke without raising her voice. "Ma'am, stay here." It sounded like concern. It wasn't. Daeho leaned forward just enough to see Sloane's hands. His gaze flicked to Marcus, then back. A silent question. Marcus gave the smallest nod, like permission granted for an outcome. Sloane stopped beside 3A. Cold air licked her wrists. The fracture was closer than it had been 30 seconds ago. She could feel it, like a live wire under skin. She knelt, the cabin watched. Daeho watched hardest of all, suspicious and calm, and Sloane felt the new rules snap into place. The second she saved him, someone would decide she knew too much. Sloane wedges her knee into the aisle to steady herself and yanks the emergency patch kit free. It comes out with a hard scrape that turns heads. The cabin is quieter now. Not safe, just watching, because everyone understands the next sound might be the last one. She drops beside the starboard wall behind seat 3A. Cold air licks her wrists through torn glove seams. The fracture is worse up close. A jagged line, 17 inches long, spidering toward the window seam like it has a destination. Her brain runs the numbers anyway. Propagation speed, seam distance, cure time, and the answer lands like a shove. One miss, and the panel blows. Marcus shifts behind her, breathing fast, too polished. Sloane feels his attention on the kit more than on the crack. The attendant with the wet tape stands 2 steps back, pretending to shield passengers, but her eyes keep darting to Sloane's hands, waiting for a mistake to report. Sloane snaps the primary plate out, peels the backing, and presses it over the split. Suction grabs and nearly rips it from her grip. She leans in harder, shoulders shaking once, then steadies. The seal catches on the first try. Relief tries to rise. She crushes it. This part is only the door latch. The door still wants to blow open. Her fingers move with a fluency she hates recognizing. Ramstein hangar drills. Contractor briefings. The discharge that erased her name from systems, not from muscle memory. She works the upper stress line with the bonding compound applicator, smoothing, locking, shaping the cure path so it holds pressure instead of fighting it. The moment metal meets her palm, the trembling stops. It always stops. That calm is her problem. It is also the only reason anyone is still breathing. Her old commander called it her defect. Hands steady when others break, so she learned to hide it. Shin Dae-ho watches from 3A, chin lifted, eyes flat. Powerful men don't prepare for physics. They prepare for people. His gaze flicks to Marcus, then back to Sloane, as if deciding which threat belongs to him. The crack quiets for a heartbeat. The cabin inhales together. She used skills she was discharged and erased for. To save a man who doesn't even know her name yet. You already know this isn't a regular story. Subscribe right now. The people who left before this moment are already missing everything. The plate holds and sound returns in pieces. Breaths, coughs, the thin tick of stressed metal. Sloane keeps her palm on the patch and counts. 90 seconds. Don't let go. If it slips, they're done. Shin Dae-ho doesn't thank her. He leans forward and speaks like he's placing a blade on the table. Sloane Vaughn. Not Miss, not Attendant. Her full name, the one she buried under a new number in silence. Her stomach drops. That name means someone sold her past. It also means he chose this second to use it. Sloane forces her face still while her mind runs the math. Marcus is too steady, too close, too focused on her hands. The cockpit door is sealed. The jet is wounded. If she bolts, she can be shoved into the fracture and called panic. If she argues, she becomes a problem to solve after landing. The cure time hits in her head like a green light. She lifts her hand off the patch only when she must. Then she stands slowly and sits in the nearest seat. It isn't surrender. It's positioning. Arm rests between her and Marcus, an angle where she can see both men. Dae-ho watches the move, and his eyes sharpen with quiet interest. Marcus's breathing speeds up again, on cue. Performance. His fingers flex below the armrest line, hidden. Behind them, the attendant with the wet tape pretends to pray, but her thumb taps a hidden earpiece twice. Sloane hears a click, on purpose. Someone is reporting, right now, outside. Sloane swallows once and keeps her gaze on the patch, because staring at Dae-ho would turn this into a challenge. The new rule settles over the row like pressure. He knows her real name, and someone on this jet wants him dead. If she stays, she's in it. If she leaves, she's still in it. Just without leverage. He said a name she spent 2 years erasing. Think about what that means. Somebody handed it to him. Drop a fire in the comments if you felt that. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what exactly are you waiting for? Sloane keeps her palm on the plate while the compound cures. 90 seconds feels like forever when the air is thin and every eye is on her hands. She counts anyway, because counting is the only thing that keeps her from looking at Marcus. The crack sits under the plate now, quiet but not gone. The exposed composite around it is scuffed and wet with resin. Sloane slides her thumb along the edge. Not for comfort, for proof. Something catches her skin, a stamped mark, half buried in the fibers. Her chest tightens. She angles her wrist, finds the light and reads it fast, then again. A logistics code. Black market routing from a military surplus network that was decommissioned in 2019. She knows that code. Not from gossip, from her own signature. A warehouse, a clipboard, a supervisor who never gave a last name. One page she was told to sign, and one crate she was told not to open. She signed anyway. Then her discharge happened. Then her identity disappeared. And now that same code is stamped into the material that nearly tore this jet apart. This flight was never just about Shin Dae-ho. It is about her. Across the aisle, Dae-ho watches her knuckles whiten. Marcus watches Dae-ho. Nobody breathes like normal, not even her. Sloane swallows and sits back, 4 feet from a man who already said her buried name. She keeps her face blank while her thoughts race. If she tells him, he may decide she's part of it. If she hides it, someone else will use it first. If you've ever been the only person who saw the trap before it snapped, don't leave her here. Subscribe now and comment, "I'm here," because the people who built this want you to look away, just like they want her to. The descent alarm screams once and cuts off like someone killed it. Sloane feels it in her ribs. The rules just changed. Marcus's breathing had been fast and ugly when the mask dropped. Now his eyes sharpen too cleanly. His chest still pumps like panic, but his focus is steady, locked on Sloane's hands, not on Dae-ho. That's when she understands the lie. He wasn't running out of oxygen. He was buying time. Dae-ho turns his head slow and looks at Marcus the way a man checks a weapon he owns. Then he looks at Sloane. Not the patch, her face, like he's reading what she knows. Sloane forces her thoughts into order. The code, the stamped fibers, the wet tape. If she speaks, she becomes loud. If she stays quiet, she becomes easy. Her mouth tastes like metal. Marcus shifts in his seat and lets one hand rise from below the armrest line, deliberate and calm. He brings it up like it's just a man steadying himself, but his fingers are curled around something slim. Sloane can't see what it is. She only sees the intention in the angle of his wrist. The attendant with the tape watches Marcus, not Dae-ho. That tells Sloane enough. They're aligned for this minute. Dae-ho doesn't move. He doesn't reach for Marcus. He just watches the space between Marcus's hand and Sloane's throat, then the space between Sloane and his own seat. His calm feels like pressure. If Marcus moves first, Dae-ho dies. If Sloane moves first, she's exposed, and they will deny her afterward. Sloane's foot finds the aisle brace. Her fingers flex once, ready to grab the kit, ready to swing it, ready to do anything that keeps the hand from finishing its job. She hates that she's thinking like this again. 3 people, 1 row, no sound, no help. Marcus wasn't losing oxygen. He was counting seconds. This is the moment most people would freeze. She didn't. If you're built like that, prove it. Comment Sloane right now. The ones who don't are the ones Marcus was counting on. The jet dips and the cabin groans like it hates being held together. Sloane keeps her eyes on Marcus's raised hand, because whatever he's hiding matters less than the timing. He isn't panicking. He's waiting for her to blink. Shin Dae-ho speaks one quiet word in Korean, and Marcus's hand stops midair. Not lowers, stops. The message is clear. Not yet. Sloane feels anger flare, then clamps it down. If Dae-ho can control his killer with a syllable, then Dae-ho can control her too. A click echoes from the front. The cockpit door releases under emergency protocol. That sound should mean help. It doesn't. It means new eyes will step into this mess and write it down wrong. Decompression incident. Material fatigue. A neat report that buries the code Sloane just saw. If the only proof lives in her memory, it dies with her. She makes a choice that tastes like rust. She leans back toward the patch, like she's checking the cure line, and slides the bonding applicator into the torn edge of composite near the fracture. Her fingers try to shake. They don't. The tool bites. A thin strip lifts. The cabin tilts and her stomach lurches, but she keeps pressure steady, sawing gently, taking only what she can hide. The fragment comes free, no bigger than a thumbnail. It feels warm from friction, wrong against her palm. The logistics code is still stamped into the fibers, sharp enough to read without light. Proof. Real proof. Also a crime. If anyone reports her for damaging the jet, she becomes the story, not the saboteur. Marcus's gaze snaps to her hand. The attendant with the wet tape shifts closer, pretending to steady a passenger, but her eyes track the fragment like it's money. Sloane's pulse jumps. She slides the piece into the inner lining of her left cuff and presses her wrist shut, forcing her face blank. Then she sees something she didn't see before. On the underside of the composite, behind the black market code, there's a second stamp, smaller, older, pressed deep. A name, not a company. A person. Sloane's throat tightens. She knows that name. She hasn't said it out loud in years. The jet shudders again, and for the first time since the masks dropped, she understands the real danger isn't the crack. It's who touched this material before it ever reached this plane. He knows she knows. Dae-ho waits until the plane levels into descent before he starts talking again. Not loud, not angry. Calm, like he's discussing weather. Sloane keeps her left wrist pinned against her thigh, cuff press closed, fragment hidden where nobody can demand it. I assumed you were trained, he says, eyes on the patched wall. Not hired. He doesn't call it a question. He lets it hang. Marcus shifts behind her. The attendant with the wet tape pretends to adjust a mask strap but watches Sloane's cuff. Sloane chooses a truth that doesn't open doors. She says she's handled emergencies before. She keeps the word contractor locked behind her teeth. Dae-ho nods once like he expected that lie-shaped truth. Dae-ho glances at Marcus. He's breathing like a man on purpose, he says. Like it's nothing. Sloane's mouth goes dry. She answers carefully. Some people don't waste air when they're afraid. Marcus's jaw tightens. The room notices today. He speaks again, still soft. The crack started behind my seat. If she agrees too fast, she admits she was watching him. If she denies, she insults his eyes. Sloane breathes and answers with numbers instead of emotion. She says the fracture spread from a stress point near the service panel seam, not from his seat. She says the fiber orientation showed a pull direction. Specific. Safe. Dae-ho's gaze sharpens, and Sloane feels heat creep up her neck. That detail is a key. Only someone close enough to touch the hull would notice it. Only someone trying to keep the plane alive would talk geometry, not fear. Marcus leans forward as if to check her mask. His fingers hover near her left cuff. Sloane shifts her wrist under her thigh and meets his eyes for 1 second. Don't, Marcus retreats, smiling like he enjoyed the test. Dae-ho watches that exchange without moving. He doesn't react, he records it. Then he says her name again, quieter this time, like he's lowering the room temperature. Sloane Vaughn. The way he says it tells her he can say more. Where she came from, who erased her. Sloane forces her voice steady. She tells him the plate will hold if nobody touches it. She does not tell him about the code. She does not tell him about the second stamp. Her heart pounds like a fist on a locked door. The plane shudders. Someone sobs. Dae-ho doesn't look away from her. She didn't lie to him. She just told the truth in the right order. That's not luck. That's a woman built different. Comment built different if you see exactly what she just did. And if this channel isn't on your subscription list yet, you're only hurting yourself. The wheels hit the runway and people exhaled like the sky had forgiven them. Sloane didn't. Her left cuff felt heavy because the fragment inside it was real, and real things got people erased. Officials boarded fast. A suit asked if anyone saw anything unusual. Sloane watched his pen more than his face. Pens decided what became truth. Shin Dae-ho was guided off first, surrounded by men who didn't wear uniforms but moved like authority. He didn't look back. Marcus did. His eyes slid to Sloane's left wrist, then away, like a quiet warning. Sloane was pulled aside and questioned in a room that smelled like sanitizer. Were you trained? Did you touch the hull? Did anyone interfere? She answered with clean, harmless words and kept her wrist still. Every glance downward made her throat tighten. Paperwork printed out. Decompression incident. Structural failure. Nothing about a stamped logistics code. Nothing about wet tape. Nothing about an oxygen line being pinched. The page looked innocent on purpose. They released her into ordinary daylight. For 3 steps, she almost believed it was over. Then tires rolled slow behind her, matching her pace. She didn't turn. Turning would admit she noticed. In the glass of the terminal door, she caught it. A black SUV easing into the lane. 30 seconds after she stepped out, it moved when she moved. The fragment burned against her skin like a secret with teeth. She could rip the cuff open and drop it in a trash can. She could call security and sound insane. She could keep walking like she was nobody. None felt safe today. If you've ever watched the truth get rewritten while you're still breathing it, don't leave her here. Subscribe now and comment, don't look away, because the moment she does, they win. The call hits her phone before she reaches the rideshare lane. The number is burned into her memory like a scar. 11 years of, call me if you ever need help, and Sloane has never used it. She answers. Her voice comes out too steady. On the other end, her oldest friend says, don't hang up. No hello, no warmth, just pressure. Sloane keeps walking because stopping feels like surrender. The black SUV is still there in the reflection of the terminal glass. Her friend whispers, "I know about the code." Sloane's stomach drops. Nobody should know that code unless they were inside the warehouse, inside the paperwork, inside the life that got erased. "Where are you?" Sloane asks. Her friend gives an address and says she's been trying to reach her since before the jet lifted off. Before. That word hits like a bruise, like this day was scheduled. "Bring what you took," her friend says. "Not proof, not truth. What you took." Sloane presses her left cuff to her thigh and feels the fragment bite through fabric. The second stamp name flashes in her head like a warning light. If she hands it over, the only solid thing becomes a story somebody else controls. Sloane lies. "I don't have it." Silence answers. Then her friend says, softer, "You do. Please. If you don't come, they'll clean it up, and you'll be the only loose end." The fear sounds real. That's what makes it dangerous. Sloane doesn't go to the address. She goes close enough to see it without being seen. She gets dropped early, hood up, eyes down, heartbeat loud. One wrong glance and she becomes an accident. From behind a parked van, she watches the entrance. People move in and out like nothing happened at 40,000 feet. Her phone buzzes again. No message, just insistence. The door opens and her friend steps out, moving fast, not scanning, like someone afraid. Sloane's throat tightens. Right behind her friend is a man in a plain coat with expensive posture. He turns just enough for Sloane to catch his wrist as he adjusts his sleeve. A cufflink flashes. Silver. Familiar. Ramstein. Issued to men who smiled while they erased names. Sloane's lungs lock. The man speaks to her friend like he owns the air between them. Her friend nods. Then her friend's eyes sweep the street. Not random. Measured. Searching. She doesn't look toward the van. She looks past it, toward the corner where the black SUV would wait. Then she smiles. Small and sad, like she already knows Sloane is watching. Sloane's phone lights up. A new text from her friend. "Now!" The cufflink man checks his watch and looks straight down the block as if he's listening to someone in his ear. The black SUV rolls into view at the corner, slow, obedient. The trap has edges, closing fast. Sloane backs deeper into shadow, pulse hammering. 11 years, shared meals, shared secrets. And now her oldest friend is standing beside the kind of man who stamped her past into a plane. 11 years. And she was standing on the other side the whole time. If this hits you somewhere real, you owe the story a like, right now. Because Sloane kept going even after this. And most people wouldn't. Sloane doesn't run to her car. She moves toward the nearest place with cameras and people. It still doesn't feel safe. The black SUV is there, idling like it owns the curb. She keeps her left cuff pinned to her ribs. The fragment inside feels like a weight with teeth. Her phone buzzes. Another text from her friend. "Where are you?" Sloane deletes it because replying is a rope. A hand touches her elbow. Not rough, certain. Sloane jerks and turns, then stops. Shin Dae-ho stands close enough to block her next step. No crowd around him, but he isn't alone. Two men hold the walkway edges, quiet, watching every exit. "How long have they been behind you?" he asks. His voice is calm, like the answer won't change the outcome. "Since the terminal," Sloane says. Her eyes flick to the SUV in the glass. It hasn't moved, and that means it doesn't need to. Dae-ho follows her glance. "They won't take you here," he says. "Too loud." Then his gaze drops to her wrist. "But they will take you." Anger hits first, then fear under it. "Why me?" she asks, even though she already knows. The code, the stamp, the name he said on the plane. Dae-ho doesn't answer the question. He offers a worse truth. "You saw what you weren't supposed to see," he says, "and you touched what you weren't supposed to touch." Sloane feels the urge to deny, to play small. She kills it. "If you wanted me gone, I'd already be gone," she says. It isn't courage, it's math. A small pause. Dae-ho's eyes narrow like he respects math. "Correct," he says. "I don't want you gone. I want you contained." Contained. The word lands like a lock. Her pulse hammers, hard, fast. Staying free means being hunted alone. Taking his protection means stepping into his world, where every door has a cost. Sloane looks at the SUV again, then at the men on the walkway. No open path, no clean choice. "Get in," Dae-ho says. Sloane moves because the calculation leaves her no other move. Dae-ho doesn't take her to a police desk. He takes her to a car with dark glass and a door that locks inside. Sloane sits stiff because she knows what protection costs. He doesn't touch her. He watches her hands and waits. "Show me," he says. Sloane peels back her cuff. The fragment slides into her palm. Small enough to hide, heavy enough to change everything. She holds it out, but not all the way. A boundary. Dae-ho's eyes drop to the stamped logistics code. His face changes, like recognition hit first. "You know it," Sloane says. Her voice threatens to crack. "I know who uses it," Dae-ho answers. Controlled. "That code should not be in my aircraft." "It is," Sloane says, "and it wasn't an accident." Marcus sits in the front seat. Sloane feels him listen without turning. His silence is pressure. If Dae-ho calls him out, Marcus will move. If Dae-ho protects him, Sloane is trapped. Dae-ho taps the code once, careful not to smear resin. "This network is dead on paper," he says, "but paper is cheap." His gaze lifts to her. "You signed for it." Her stomach knots. "I signed once," she says. "I didn't choose where it went." Dae-ho leans closer. "My aircraft schedule is locked. Only a few people touch it." He glances at Marcus in the mirror. Marcus's jaw ticks. Dae-ho doesn't blink. "So tell me," he says, "did you save me by chance? Or because you were meant to?" Answer carefully. It's a test. Sloane's throat tightens. He isn't asking to learn. He is asking to place her on a board. That means her history is in his files, and he brought it here like a leash. Sloane makes a decision. She turns the fragment over. The second stamp sits on the underside, older and deeper, pressed into the fibers like a fingerprint. A person's name. Sloane watches Dae-ho's eyes lock on it. For the first time, he pauses too long. "That name," Sloane says, "should not exist near you." Dae-ho's jaw works once. It is the smallest crack in his control. He looks past the glass like he is measuring how much damage the truth will do inside his own house. Then he says Park Jae-min out loud, quiet, precise, and heavy, like it cost him to let it leave his mouth. He said the name out loud after everything. If you've stayed this far, you're not a casual. You're the reason stories like this get told. Subscribe if you haven't. Share this with one person who needs to hear what happens when someone refuses to look away. We're almost at the end. And the ending is not what you think. At 11:14 p.m., Sloane's phone stops being a phone and turns into a weapon pointed at her heart. Her daughter's name flashes on the screen. She answers on the first ring. No voice, just a faint breath, like somebody is holding the line open on purpose. She calls back, straight to voicemail. Again. Each attempt feels louder, like she's announcing where to hit her. She keeps her left hand steady on the seatbelt latch, because shaking would mean she's losing. Outside the tinted glass, the city looks normal. Inside, Sloane counts seconds like they're pills she has to swallow without water. 9 minutes pass, the kind of 9 minutes that changes who a person is. When the call finally connects, it isn't her daughter. "Listen," a man says. Calm, close to the mic. No threat words. That's the threat. You're going to come alone. You're going to stop asking questions. You're going to do exactly what you're told. He gives an address, then a time window. Short, precise, like he's reading it off a schedule. Sloane's throat tightens. "Let me hear her," she says. Her voice comes out sharp, and she hates that it sounds like pleading. Silence answers, then a muffled whimper, one sound cut off. The line goes dead. Sloane stares at the black screen. Her mind tries to race through possibilities, but only one lands. This isn't punishment. It's leverage. They don't care about her fear. They care about what she knows and who she can be forced to hand it to. She scrolls to her sister's number and stops. Calling would make a record. Records become maps. She types one text instead. 3 words, no details. "Lock doors, now, please." Then she deletes the thread, because she's learned how small traces turn into trails. Her stomach turns with guilt, but guilt doesn't drive tonight. Choices do. Across from her, Shin Dae-ho doesn't ask what happened. He watches her face change and already knows it's a doorway. He taps once on the divider between seats. The driver's eyes flick up in the mirror. 2 other vehicles peel off from the curb like they were waiting for permission to move. "I'm going," Sloane says, before she can be talked out of it. She hates that the words feel true. "You are not going alone," Dae-ho replies. No warmth, no comfort, just control. "If your men show up, they'll hurt her first," Sloane says. She feels her nails dig into her palm. They want me, not you. Dae-ho holds her gaze. They want the thing you touched, he says, and they will use your child to get it. He glances toward her left cuff as if the fragment is still there, even if it isn't. You do not understand how fast a mistake becomes permanent. Sloane swallows hard. His protection is real. It is also a cage closing around her. And the worst part is, she can feel the math agreeing with him, while her heart screams to move anyway. The address leads to a storage yard with one harsh light. Sloane steps out before anyone can touch her door. If she lets them handle her, she'll feel owned, and she can't afford that. Dae-ho stays close, but not in front of her. Two of his men disappear wide to the sides. A metal door opens. Her daughter is inside, on the floor, wrists tied with thin cord, eyes swollen from crying, alive. Her knees threaten to fold. She locks them. A man in a hoodie stands behind the girl, phone up, recording. You're late, he says. His gaze flicks past Sloane, searching the dark. You said alone. I came, Sloane replies. She lifts her hands. She keeps her voice flat because fear is entertainment to men like this. Let her go. He smiles. Bring me what you took. Sloane's mouth goes dry. She doesn't have the fragment anymore. She can't admit that without sounding trapped. That's when her oldest friend steps into view at the doorframe. Red eyes, tight jaw. Not looking at the girl. Looking at Sloane like she wants forgiveness before she speaks. Sloane's stomach drops. This isn't just business. It's betrayal with a familiar face. Dae-ho speaks, calm and sharp. Park Jae-min. The hoodie man freezes for half a beat. Dae-ho raises the composite fragment between two fingers. Your stamp is in my aircraft, he says. Your code is on my hull. He tilts it so the mark catches light. You tried to kill me with air. The hoodie man's smile slips. He glances at his phone like someone is listening. That's not proof, he snaps. It's enough, Dae-ho says. I can make your name public, or I can bury it inside your own network. His eyes don't move. Untie her. The hoodie man hesitates. The girl flinches at the pause. Sloane feels rage rise. Her friend moves suddenly. She grabs the hoodie man's filming phone and smashes it against the wall. The crack is loud. The hoodie man recoils like he's been slapped. Everything breaks at once. He shoves Sloane's daughter backward and reaches under his jacket. One of Dae-ho's men fires first. The shot misses the hoodie man. It hits a teenager stepping out from behind stacked crates, hands raised, holding a toolbox. Wrong person. Wrong second. He drops hard and doesn't get back up. Sloane's breath vanishes. Her daughter screams. The hoodie man bolts through the doorway and disappears into the yard. Sloane's friend stands frozen, staring at the fallen boy, horror spreading across her face. Dae-ho doesn't look at her. He watches the escape route like he's already counting what it costs. Get her, Dae-ho orders. Sloane moves anyway. She cuts the cord off her daughter's wrists with shaking hands and pulls her close. The boy on the ground is still. The sound of his body hitting concrete keeps replaying in Sloane's head. She didn't choose this war, but she's in it. And she keeps moving because stopping won't save anyone now. My daughter's wrists are red where the cord bit her, and I can't stop staring at them. I keep telling myself she's breathing, she's here, it's over. Then I hear that boy hit the concrete again in my head, and my stomach turns. I hold my kid tight anyway. If I let go, I'll start shaking. Shin Dae-ho rides beside us in silence. No sirens, no comfort, just cars moving like a shadow. When my daughter finally falls asleep against my shoulder, he speaks without looking at me. You kept her alive, he says. Now you will keep yourself alive. I text my sister, keep her inside, then delete it. Records become maps when men hunt. My throat tightens. I ask him where Park Jae-min went. Dae-ho answers, not far enough. The way he says it tells me Park is still breathing. At the safe house, Dae-ho sets a small evidence bag on the table. Inside is the composite fragment. My hands itch to grab it. He slides it away with 2 fingers. This is mine, he says. It will be used. I feel heat rise in my face. I want to demand my life back. I can't because my child is in the next room and his men are on every door. He opens a thin folder and turns it toward me. My real name sits on top, printed clean like it was never erased. Under it are photos of the warehouse, the code, the stamp. Dae-ho watches my eyes and says, almost gentle, you are not going back to being unknown. My phone buzzes once. Unknown number. One word, CM, Park's reminder. He knows I'm still here. If you felt that cold settle in your chest, subscribe now, because the next call won't be a warning. it'll be a demand.